Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The skies over Earth had darkened, not with the usual storm clouds or volcanic ash, but with something far more ominous. A collective breath was held as the world's top scientists, their faces etched with lines of stress and sleepless nights, delivered the news that would forever alter the course of human history. A rogue black hole, a cosmic leviathan, was hurtling towards the solar system, drawn inexorably by forces beyond human comprehension. The sun, the planets, the very fabric of the solar system would be torn apart, swallowed into the abyss, leaving nothing behind but the cold silence of space. Governments and nations, once divided by politics, culture, and the endless squabbles of human nature, were forced to unite. There was no choice. The luxury of conflict had been ripped away by the stark reality of impending doom. The leaders of Earth, assembled in a virtual meeting that spanned continents, agreed on a plan, one desperate, audacious plan that would be humanity's last hope. From this unity was born the Noah's Ark Project, an endeavor so vast and complex that it seemed almost impossible. But impossibility was no longer a deterrent, it was a challenge. The Ark would be the greatest ship ever built, a self-sustaining fortress in the void of space, designed to carry a fraction of humanity away from the dying solar system to a new home among the stars. Every available resource, every mind capable of contributing, was brought together to make it a reality. In the sprawling shipyards orbiting the moon, the construction of the Ark began. The ship was designed to be a marvel of human ingenuity, stretching miles in length, its sleek hull bristling with advanced technology. Solar sails, immense and shimmering, were unfurled to capture the last rays of the dying sun, converting them into the energy that would power the ship's journey. Deep within its core, the Ark housed vast hydroponic gardens, massive water reservoirs, and oxygen recycling systems capable of sustaining life for generations. It was a microcosm of Earth, engineered to endure the cold, unforgiving expanse of space, but this construction was not without cost. Billions of people would be left behind, their fate sealed by the limits of the Ark's capacity. The selection process was ruthless. Scientists, engineers, medical professionals, and military personnel were prioritized, along with a cross-section of the population meant to preserve the diversity of human culture and knowledge. Those left behind faced their doom with a mixture of resignation, anger, and fear, but there was nothing to be done. Humanity's survival depended on the few, not the many. As the black hole drew nearer, its gravitational pull wreaking havoc on the solar system, the pace of construction accelerated. The Earth trembled with tectonic upheavals, the oceans surged and receded unpredictably, and the once predictable orbits of the planets became chaotic. The countdown to launch was marked not by the ticking of a clock, but by the increasing violence of the Earth's final throes. Finally, the day came. The Ark, now fully constructed and gleaming like a silver spear pointed at the stars, was ready. The selected few boarded in solemn silence, their eyes reflecting the glow of the dying sun as they took their last look at the world they had known. Families clung to each other, knowing they were leaving behind not just their home, but the very essence of their past. The Ark's engines roared to life, a sound that reverberated through space like the beating heart of a giant. Slowly, ponderously, the ship ascended, breaking free of Earth's gravity for the last time. Below, those left behind watched with a mixture of hope and despair, their last link to the future disappearing into the blackness of space. The journey began in earnest. The Ark, guided by the most advanced AI humanity had ever created, plotted a course through the galaxy. But space is not a void devoid of danger, it is a battlefield, an arena where the laws of physics and the unpredictability of the cosmos are the only constants. The first challenge came not from aliens or hostile forces, but from the very environment they traveled through. An asteroid field, dense and treacherous, loomed ahead. The Ark's sensors detected the danger too late. The field was not just a scattering of rocks but a chaotic storm of debris moving at unimaginable speeds. The ship's shields, designed to withstand the rigors of space, were pushed to their limits as the Ark navigated the field. Massive chunks of rock slammed into the hull, the impacts echoing through the ship like the tolling of a bell. Inside, the crew worked frantically, adjusting the ship's course and deploying drones to deflect or destroy the largest asteroids. Tension among the passengers escalated as the reality of their situation set in. This was not just a journey but a fight for survival. Every bump, every scrape, every shudder of the ship reminded them that they were hurtling through a hostile universe, one that cared nothing for their plight. When the Ark finally emerged from the asteroid field, it was battered but intact. Relief washed over the crew, but it was short-lived. As they ventured deeper into space, they encountered something far more dangerous than rocks, a race of beings unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The first encounter with the alien species was tentative, cautious. The aliens, known as the Etherians, appeared humanoid but with elongated limbs and luminescent skin that pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. Communication was established through a combination of mathematics and a universal translator developed by the Ark's linguists. At first, the Etherians seemed friendly, offering assistance and guidance through their region of space. But as the days passed, it became clear that their intentions were not as benevolent as they had first appeared. Diplomatic tensions escalated when the Etherians demanded a toll for safe passage through their territory, technology, resources, and, most disturbingly, a portion of the Ark's population for integration into their society. The leaders of the Ark refused, knowing that to comply would be to surrender the very essence of humanity. Negotiations broke down, and the Etherians revealed their true nature: ruthless, calculating, and technologically superior. The Etherians attacked without warning. Their ships, sleek and deadly, descended upon the Ark with precision strikes, targeting its engines and life support systems. The Ark's defenses, hastily activated, managed to hold off the initial assault, but it was clear that a prolonged battle would spell doom for the human survivors. Inside the Ark, chaos erupted as alarms blared and the ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire. In the heat of battle, heroes emerged. Captain Elena Ramirez, a seasoned officer with a calm demeanor and nerves of steel, took command of the Ark's defenses. Under her leadership, the crew mounted a desperate counterattack, using every weapon at their disposal to fend off the Etherians. Drones were deployed in swarms, laser turrets hummed with deadly precision, and the Ark's advanced AI orchestrated the defense with cold efficiency, but the Etherians were relentless. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Ark's only hope lay in a daring gamble, using the ship's experimental warp drive to escape into uncharted space. The warp drive, a piece of technology still in its infancy, was unstable and had never been tested under combat conditions. To use it was to risk everything, but to stay was certain death. Captain Ramirez made the call. With the Etherian ships closing in for the kill, the order was given to activate the warp drive. The Ark's core hummed with power as the drive spun up, generating a massive surge of energy that threatened to tear the ship apart. In a blinding flash of light, the Ark disappeared from the Etherian sensors, leaving their attackers in stunned silence. The warp jump flung the Ark across the galaxy, depositing it in a region of space so distant and unknown that even the Ark's advanced star charts had no record of it. The ship was intact, but the strain of the jump had taken its toll. Systems were damaged, the crew was exhausted, and supplies were running low. Worse still, the warp jump had caused a temporal distortion, leaving the Ark stranded in a time and place where the rules of the universe seemed different, but there was no time to dwell on their predicament. As the Ark sensors came back online, they detected something incredible, a planet, orbiting a distant star, with conditions that suggested it could support life. It was a beacon of hope in the darkness, a potential new home for the remnants of humanity. But as the Ark approached, they realized they were not alone. The planet, lush and teeming with life, was also the site of a fierce conflict between two powerful alien species. The Ark's arrival was seen as an intrusion, and both sides quickly turned their attention to the newcomers. The humans found themselves caught in the crossfire of a war that had been raging for centuries, a war over the control of the planet's resources. Captain Ramirez, now faced with the impossible task of leading her people through yet another crisis, made the decision to negotiate. Contact was established with both alien factions, but the negotiations quickly devolved into a dangerous game of diplomacy and subterfuge. The aliens, distrustful and aggressive, saw the Ark as both a threat and an opportunity. They offered alliances, but each offer came with strings attached, demands for technology, resources, and even human soldiers to fight in their war. The crew of the Ark, weary from their long journey and the battles they had fought, debated the best course of action. Some argued for taking the planet by force, using the Ark's remaining weapons to establish a foothold. Others advocated for continuing the search, unwilling to embroil humanity in another conflict. Tensions ran high, and it was clear that whatever decision was made, it would shape the future of humanity. In the end, it was a young scientist named Dr. Leah Park who proposed a solution, a daring plan to turn the two alien factions against each other, using their own distrust and animosity to humanity's advantage. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance at survival. The crew of the Ark worked tirelessly to implement the plan, planting false information, sabotaging key systems, and spreading rumors among the alien factions. The result was chaos. The aliens, already on the brink of war, turned on each other with renewed fury, allowing the Ark to slip through the conflict and establish a base on the planet's surface, but victory came at a cost. The sabotage had not gone unnoticed, and the surviving alien faction, enraged by the deception, launched a final assault on the Arkansas. The battle was fierce, with the Ark's defenses pushed to their breaking point. Captain Ramirez, in a last-ditch effort to save her people, ordered the Ark to be scuttled, destroyed from within to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. As the Ark's self-destruct sequence activated, the crew evacuated to the planet's surface, watching in silence as the ship that had carried them across the stars was consumed in a fiery explosion. The Ark, their home and their salvation, was gone, but they had survived. On the planet's surface, the survivors regrouped. They were few in number, but they were alive. The planet, though scarred by war, offered the promise of a new beginning. The story closed with the survivors standing together, gazing out over the alien landscape that would become their new home. They had lost much, but they had also gained something invaluable: their survival, their unity, and their hope for the future. The survivors stood in silence, the echoes of the Ark's final explosion still reverberating through their minds. The ship that had been their lifeline, their sanctuary in the unforgiving void of space, was now nothing more than a smoldering wreck, its fragments scattered across the alien sky. Yet, as the dust settled and the initial shock began to fade, a profound realization took hold: they had made it. They had escaped the jaws of annihilation, not once, but countless times, and now, standing on the soil of this new world, they had the chance to start again. The air was different here, thicker, carrying a strange but not unpleasant scent of unfamiliar flora. The sky above was a shade of blue deeper than they had known on Earth, dotted with wisps of violet clouds that drifted lazily across the horizon. The planet, though alien, held a certain beauty that reminded them of the home they had lost, yet with an undercurrent of wildness, a sense that this place was still untamed, still unknown. Captain Elena Ramirez surveyed the landscape with a critical eye. The planet's surface stretched out before her, a patchwork of dense forests, rolling hills, and distant mountain ranges. A river, wide and slow-moving, meandered through the valley below, its waters shimmering under the light of twin suns that hung low in the sky. It was a world ripe with possibility, yet fraught with danger. They had seen what the native species were capable of, ruthless, powerful, and fiercely territorial. If humanity was to survive here, they would need to be smart, adaptable, and above all, united. The survivors numbered only a few thousand now, their ranks thinned by the long journey and the battles that had brought them to this point. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, civilians, all had a role to play in this new world. Ramirez knew the challenges they faced were immense. They had limited supplies, no established infrastructure, and only a rudimentary understanding of the planet's ecosystem. But they had something more valuable than any resource. They had each other. She gathered the senior officers and key personnel in what had once been the command center of the Ark, now hastily set up under the shelter of a large outcropping of rock. The makeshift headquarters was a far cry from the high-tech bridge they had lost, but it would serve. Ramirez spread out a holographic map of the area, projecting it onto the ground where everyone could see. "We've got a lot of work ahead of us," she began, her voice steady, commanding. "Our first priority is to establish a base of operations. We need to secure food and water, set up shelters, and begin mapping the terrain. The planet's environment seems stable, but we need to conduct a thorough analysis to ensure there are no hidden threats. And we need to stay vigilant. Our presence here won't go unnoticed for long." Dr. Leah Park, the young scientist whose quick thinking had played a pivotal role in their survival, stepped forward. Her eyes, usually bright with curiosity, were now filled with determination. "We've already begun preliminary scans of the area," she reported. "The soil is rich in nutrients, and there's an abundance of plant life that appears edible, though we'll need to run more tests to confirm it's safe. The river water is clean, and we've detected several large bodies of freshwater further inland. As for wildlife, we've picked up signs of various species, but nothing immediately threatening. Still, we should proceed with caution." Ramirez nodded. "Good. We'll need to establish a perimeter around our base and set up early warning systems. I want patrols on a rotating schedule, and any contact with the native species should be reported immediately. We can't afford to take any chances." Lieutenant Mark Harris, a grizzled veteran with a scar running down the side of his face, spoke up. "We've still got some of the Ark's defense systems operational. We can rig up automated turrets and motion sensors to cover the main approaches. It won't be foolproof, but it'll give us a fighting chance if anything comes our way." "Do it," Ramirez agreed. "We'll need to be resourceful with what we have. Every piece of equipment, every ounce of material needs to be accounted for and used efficiently. We don't know how long it will be before we can establish a reliable supply chain, so we have to make everything count." As the meeting continued, the survivors began to outline their plans for the days ahead. Engineers discussed the construction of shelters and the harnessing of renewable energy sources. Medical teams organized mobile clinics to monitor the health of the population and treat any injuries or illnesses. Scientists prepared to explore the planet's ecosystem, cataloging species, and studying the environment in hopes of unlocking the secrets of their new home. Despite the enormity of the task before them, there was a sense of hope in the air, a quiet determination that had carried them through the darkest days. They had faced extinction and emerged on the other side. Now, they had the chance to build something new, something better. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the landscape in shades of purple and gold, Ramirez stood alone at the edge of the camp, gazing out at the alien world. She felt the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders, but also a flicker of pride. They had come so far, endured so much, and now, against all odds, they were here. This world was theirs to shape, theirs to protect, but she knew the road ahead would not be easy. The challenges they had faced so far were only the beginning. The planet was beautiful, but it was also dangerous, its secrets still hidden beneath the surface. And there were the aliens, those who had already shown their hostility, and those they had yet to encounter. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was just a small part of it, struggling to find its place among the stars, yet, for all the uncertainty, there was also a sense of possibility. This world was a blank slate, a new beginning. The mistakes of the past could be left behind, and a new society could be built, one that was stronger, wiser, and more resilient. They had been given a second chance, and Ramirez was determined not to waste it. The first days on the planet were a blur of activity. The survivors worked tirelessly to establish their base, their efforts driven by a mix of fear and hope. Shelters were erected, food sources secured, and the perimeter defenses put in place. The scientists, led by Dr. Park, began exploring the surrounding area, cataloging the planet's flora and fauna, and running tests to ensure their safety. The engineers, under the guidance of Chief Engineer Rachel Tanaka, focused on harnessing the planet's natural resources, setting up solar panels, and wind turbines to generate power. The challenges were many, and the work was hard, but there was a sense of purpose that permeated the camp. Every task, no matter how small, was a step toward securing their future. And as the days passed, the base began to take shape, a small, but growing, outpost on an alien world. Yet, despite their progress, there was an undercurrent of tension. The memory of the alien attack was still fresh in everyone's minds, and the knowledge that they were not alone on this planet weighed heavily on them. Patrols were doubled, and the defenses reinforced, but there was a sense that it was only a matter of time before they would be tested again. That test came sooner than anyone expected. It was in the dead of night, under the cover of darkness, that the first signs of trouble appeared. The motion sensors at the edge of the perimeter began to ping, picking up movement in the dense forest that bordered the camp. The automated turrets whirred to life, scanning the area for targets, but the intruders were clever, staying just out of sight, their movements calculated and deliberate. Ramirez was in the command center when the alarm sounded. She was on her feet in an instant, barking orders to the security team. Everyone on alert. We've got movement on the perimeter. Harris, get your team out there and find out what we're dealing with. Tanaka, bring the defense systems online. I want a full sweep of the area. The camp sprang into action, soldiers grabbing their weapons and rushing to their posts, engineers checking the systems, and medics preparing for the worst. The air was thick with tension, every eye scanning the darkness for any sign of the enemy. Lieutenant Harris and his team moved out, their rifles at the ready, eyes peeled for any sign of movement. They advanced cautiously, the forest around them eerily silent, the only sound the crunch of their boots on the undergrowth. Harris could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins, his senses heightened, every nerve on edge. Suddenly, there was a flash of movement, a shadow darting between the trees. Harris raised his rifle, his finger on the trigger, but before he could fire, the shadow was gone, melting into the darkness as if it had never been there. Did you see that? One of his men whispered, his voice tense. Harris nodded, his eyes narrowing. Yeah. Stay sharp. Whatever it is, it's fast. They continued their sweep, but the forest seemed to close in around them, the darkness growing thicker, the silence more oppressive. It was as if the very trees were conspiring to hide their quarry, twisting and turning to obscure their path. Then, without warning, the silence was shattered by a shrill, piercing cry, a sound that sent a chill down Harris's spine. It was followed by another, and another, the cries echoing through the forest, coming from all directions. Ambush! Harris shouted, but it was too late. The aliens struck with lightning speed, emerging from the shadows in a blur of motion. They were taller than humans, with long, sinewy limbs and sharp, angular features. Their skin was a dark, mottled gray, blending seamlessly with the night, and their eyes glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. Harris's team fought back, their rifles spitting fire, but the aliens were relentless, their attacks coordinated and precise. The humans were outnumbered and outmatched, their defensive line quickly crumbling under the onslaught. Back at the camp, Ramirez watched in horror as the battle unfolded on the monitors. She could see Harris's team being overwhelmed, their positions overrun, the aliens cutting through them like a knife through butter. They were losing, and fast. Get reinforcements out there, she ordered, her voice tight with urgency. We can't let them break through. But even as the reinforcements scrambled to reach the front lines, it became clear that the situation was dire. The aliens were relentless, their attacks growing fiercer with each passing moment, and the human defenses were on the verge of collapse. In a desperate bid to turn the tide, Ramirez ordered the activation of the Ark's remaining defense drones. The small, agile machines launched from their bays, streaking towards the battle with a high-pitched whine. Their onboard weapon systems locked onto the alien forces, and they opened fire, a barrage of laser beams slicing through the night. The aliens were caught off guard, their ranks scattering under the onslaught. But they quickly regrouped, turning their attention to the drones. With incredible agility, they leaped into the air, slashing at the machines with razor-sharp claws, ripping them apart with frightening ease. The drones bought the humans some time, but it was not enough. The aliens were too many, too powerful, and they were closing in on the camp. Ramirez knew that if they breached the perimeter, it would be a massacre. We need to fall back, she said, her voice low but firm. We can't hold them here. Pull everyone back to the inner defenses. We'll make our stand there. The order was given, and the human forces began a fighting retreat, falling back towards the camp's central core. The aliens pressed the attack, their relentless advance leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. As the last of the human defenders crossed the threshold into the inner compound, Ramirez ordered the outer gates sealed. The massive doors slid shut with a resounding thud, cutting off the alien advance, but it was a temporary reprieve. The aliens were already at the gates, their claws raking against the metal, their inhuman cries echoing through the compound. Inside, the survivors prepared for the final assault. They had barricaded the entrances, fortified their positions, and armed themselves with every weapon they had left. But they all knew that this was it, their last stand. If the aliens broke through, there would be no escape. Ramirez stood at the front, her rifle in hand, ready to face the oncoming horde. She glanced around at the men and women beside her, their faces grim but resolute. They had been through so much together, survived so many trials, and now, at the end, they would fight together, side by side. The gates buckled under the strain, the metal groaning as the aliens hammered against it with increasing force. Ramirez took a deep breath, steeling herself for the inevitable. She knew they were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, but she also knew that they would not go down without a fight. With a deafening crash, the gates gave way, and the aliens poured in, a wave of gray-skinned warriors surging towards the human defenders. Ramirez raised her rifle, her finger on the trigger, and opened fire. The battle that followed was brutal, chaotic, and desperate. The humans fought with everything they had, their backs against the wall, their lives hanging by a thread. But the aliens were relentless, their numbers overwhelming, their attacks fierce and unyielding. One by one, the defenders fell, their positions overrun, their weapons useless against the sheer force of the alien assault. Ramirez fought with a ferocity born of desperation, but even she knew that it was only a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. Then, just as all hope seemed lost, a new sound cut through the din of battle, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to come from the very earth itself. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the air crackled with energy. Ramirez felt it before she saw it, a surge of power, ancient and primal, rising up from the depths of the planet. The aliens paused, their advance halted, as if sensing the same thing. They looked around, their glowing eyes wide with fear, as the ground beneath them began to shift and buckle. Suddenly, the earth erupted in a blaze of light, a massive energy wave sweeping through the compound. The aliens were caught in the blast, their bodies disintegrating into ash as the wave passed over them, their cries of agony cut short in an instant. The humans, shielded by some unseen force, were left unharmed, standing in stunned silence as the energy wave dissipated, leaving only a faint, shimmering glow in its wake. For a long moment, no one moved, the silence of the aftermath almost deafening. Then, slowly, Ramirez lowered her rifle, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. They had survived, somehow, against all odds. They had survived. But as the glow faded, and the reality of their situation set in, Ramirez knew that this was not the end. The planet, it seemed, had secrets of its own, and they had only just begun to uncover them. The battle was over, but the war for survival had only just begun.